Hello, Frugal Force. Once again, this is Captain Frugal, and I'm going to do something once again a little different. Over the past few weeks, there's been a lot of talk about Gail Simone, how she said that she was fired, and then in the past we know that she used sexism and they got her job back, and then she turned around and said that's not what happened, and other industry sources and things like that have said, well, yeah, it sort of was. Well, anyway, it put a lot of hate and madness out there. I'll be, oh, Gail Simone's writing sucks, or it's good and you don't know what you're talking about. Well, to be honest, I don't have a lot of skin in this game. I haven't really read much from Gail Simone. And interesting to me, I've read the Batman and Robin and Nightwing and everything from the New 52, but I never actually read Batgirl. And this is the title she was fired out from that I was talking about, which indeed she was. So I'm going to read this issue. I did read this issue, and I'm going to talk about it. And I'm only going to talk about it from a standalone point of just the first issue. I haven't read any others. So here we go. This is Batgirl, the New 52. Okay, and I'm actually reading this through Hoopla Digital, so it did not cost me anything to read. It was free through my library, so that's wonderful. And so as we see here, Gail Simone was the writer. Adrian Cyrif, I can't pronounce that right. It's the penciler. Okay, so... and then we got the colorist here, all that. So I'm going to jump in once again, just the first issue. All right. So the story starts with, we see this list from this mysterious person, which ends up being named the Mirror. And evidently it's sort of a kill list that people that maybe should have died in the past. So anyway, he comes up to this gentleman that was watering his grass with his garden hose, and he grabs the garden hose from him, shoves it in his mouth, and then goes to kill him with it. But while doing that, he asks, "Why did you survive?" Which makes me scratch my head, because how do you expect him to answer if you got the garden hose in his mouth shooting water in his face? Yeah, that's probably not the best writing right there. And then he checks that person off his list. Now, granted, I do realize this is the first issue. It's a setup issue. It's setting up a story. So I don't, I look at it through a different set of eyes. A setup story can sometimes have to move a little slow to get all the pieces in place. Now, this wasn't a bad setup except for that really bad dialogue right there. So let's move on. And when we get into Barbara Gordon, they're talking about being Batgirl, thinking to herself, we're getting here some retrospection of herself. She's looking about herself, and she appears to be, back in the game, fully good to go, and she seems happy about that. And anyway, then we cut to a scene where there's these nutballs that are going to be killing this family, because that's what they do. And somehow Batgirl knows to bust through the window and get them. Maybe she's got special powers I don't know about. Maybe it's her detective skill that didn't really fully materialize in the story. But anyway, she busts through the window and hits the first guy. She does mention that she has high upper body strength. Makes sense because of all the work in the wheelchair. And so she's fighting these guys. But it does mention, as she's mopping these people up and stuff, that she actually gets a little scared. And I think that's sort of nice, too, because she's back in the game. She's a little scared. I can buy that. Good character part there. I can deal with that. But here's an interesting thing there. She throws a batarang and hits this guy in the hand. Now, I want to show you. Remember, look at the size of the batarang here. Okay? This thing does not go in his hand much, just for the record. Let's take note of that. So this guy then knocks her out the window. She ends up holding him up, and they save him, pull him up. Anyway, she says, don't try to pull that batarang out, before the medics arrive. Why? Because it's in a couple centimeters deep? I mean, I've had paper cuts deeper than that. I mean, really, what damage is that really going to do to you? Big deal. I mean, look at that. That's barely in there. Big deal. Anyway, so she leaves and is thinking about, she's a little bit scared. So when she's in the face of a gun, it does scare her and intimidate her, and I think that's a nice element. And then she goes through and it gives a little bit more background about her getting shot, things to add to why she has that fear. Okay, and then it has a nice little moment with her father, Commissioner Gordon, and explains that she has to leave. So then she goes to her new place that she's going to be living. It's probably not the most upscale place. They mention that. But interesting, of course, she looks a little manly in this picture. I don't know what the deal with that artwork was. But anyway, she meets this person, and of course, being an SJW writer that Gail Simone is, they all have to be minorities, and of course, SJW writers trope there is all women always have to get along great and love each other, and that's what happens right off the bat. They get along great. Now, make it even a little bit more fun and interesting right here is, and I do giggle at that when I say a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger there. It says, I'm kind of an activist. All good. So, of course, not only does she have to be a minority, she has to be an activist, and then they have the fist bump because, SJW writing. Then we flash back to the hospital where the man that Batgirl beat up earlier is wearing a cast on that arm because, a 2 centimeter cut is really going to kill you. And, the detectives and cops are there talking to them. Well, anyway, meanwhile, Barbara is moving her stuff around still. So while she's moving, all of a sudden, she does get a call in a little bit because something happens. Now, I actually jumped ahead a little bit. Before that call comes, she's still getting along great. Gives a hug right off the bat because, once again, all women in the SJW world absolutely love each other. Anyway, we go back to the mirror in the hospital, and he's breaking into the hospital and taking out the police. And because really, he's going after that criminal that Barbara Gordon just recently took care of and caught. And so Barbara sort of tapped into the system. She gets a message. She takes her van, pulls it open, gets out the old cool motorcycle, which I think that's pretty cool, and takes off to the hospital. So in the meantime, these cops are making completely fools of themselves, as of probably have to make this mirror guy seem, like a tough bad guy. So that's what they do, because, that's comics. Anyway, so he's making short work of these police, and of course, what happens? Babs comes in and takes the elevator, yes, and then breaks through into the building. I don't know what you want, big man, and then she's going to stop this guy, right? That's pretty cool. I can deal with that. So anyway, moving on, more from that. He pulls out a gun on her, and that makes her freeze up, because remember, she is afraid of guns, and I think that's perfectly acceptable, because she remembers that day of what happened, right? So anyway, she freezes up when that happens. And the cop's yelling, move, take him down, what's wrong with you? But she's frozen up. And so since she froze up, the guy gets time to take care of the criminal. And then, what's he do? Dun dun dun, he pushes him out the window. Amazingly, I guess when you fall out a window, one of your eyeballs disappear. Not even a socket or anything. You just lose an eye. I guess that's one of those art mistakes. Well, anyway, so because Barbara froze up, right? This guy gets killed. Well, is that her fault? She froze up. She got scared. But look at how this police officer takes it. You let him kill that man. You just watched him die. Murderer! What? Okay, you messed up. He got killed. You didn't, but she didn't kill that guy. How does that make her a murderer? That was just, once again, some pretty cringe-worthy writing right there. So, and that pretty much wraps up that issue. So, overall, I will say the art was pretty good, except for a little thing like a missing eye. Otherwise, it wasn't too bad. It's pretty good artwork. I can deal with that. I will say the writing all the way through, it's not a terrible story setup. Remember, I've only read issue 1, so don't shoot me. The rest could suck for all I know. She also, from what I've heard in the past, has a tendency to surround Barbara with all minorities, and they're all great. And that tends to be an SJW trope thing. And who knows? Maybe they're written well. I don't care if they're minorities as long as it's written well. If they're token minorities, then that's just ridiculous. Write them like real characters. Then I'm absolutely fine with that. So I don't want to prejudge her like a lot of people might have. So overall, there was some cringy writing in the story, let's be honest, and some tropes, but overall not terrible. So I would give it a C. I'm going to read the second issue because I can read it for free. So that's my take on it. Now, I just want to take a moment as well while we're at it to say thank you to all you guys for taking time to watch this video. If you did enjoy this, please be sure to hit like and subscribe. Also, make sure you hit that notifications bell so you get notified when I do have videos. Otherwise, I hear that has not always been the case. Also, if you want to support me, you can go over to my VidMe. Just put in Captain Frugal there. You'll find me. And you can subscribe for as little as $1 a month. Or you can even just give me a one-time tip. And if those things don't work for you too, since you're a member of the Frugal Force and we don't care, it's not just about money, it's about being inclusive and part of a community. You can always help out if you want to by sending me things like fan art, digital fan art, or whatever makes you happy. I love it, and I'll make sure I give you a shout out. And speaking of shout outs, I do also want to give a shout out to another one of the Frugal Force members as well. This Frugal Force member did not only help me out by doing something great. He provided the awesome comic book intro for my reviews that you've seen here. So that would be Fat Panther versus SJW's title. You can see him at HarshPunk20. He provided me this wonderful, excellent intro, and I greatly appreciate it. All right, Frugal fans, thanks again for watching and listening, and until next time, keep it frugal.